This is Greg Locke. If you're unfamiliar, he's a hate preacher, a megachurch pastor, a televangelist type of person. He is unglued from reality. Some of the things that he says is crazy. If you're wondering what happened at this moment in history, Israel and Palestine are really at each other's throats right now. We don't know what's happening or where this is going to go, but I get the distinct feeling it's about to get real ugly. Anyways, Greg Locke believes that this is like a special moment, and this is like the fulfillment of prophecy, stuff like that. So we'll see what happens. I'm kind of horrified by this situation, but Greg is probably going to explain his biblical basis for the belief that Israel must exist for the end to come, basically. And while we do, we're going to play this game here. If you've never seen it, it should just be in the background. Won't bother you too much.
Now listen, I wanna pray on the front end because I don't want things to bleed too much into the message because I'll get a little stirred up. And I got some other faith-filled things that I want to preach on, but I want to take a special time in our service.
Dude, did his voice just crack? Is he like, does he have COVID or something?
Service to pray for what is happening in Israel, in Jerusalem right now. And that's why we celebrate. We celebrate victory, not defeat. You understand? So let me say a couple of things. You can be standing. It'll be all right. I got to stand longer than anybody, so you'll be fine. We'll get back into some offering and worship and all that, and then we'll let you sit down and we'll teach you a little bit from the Bible. But I want to say a few things, and so I don't want it to get mixed up in the message, okay? Because I'm going to preach on something totally different. I don't want anybody in-house or online to say, oh, I thought he wasn't going to get political. This is not a political statement.
Yes, it is. I mean, you can try all you want to not have it be political. I don't see Greg Locke attempting to keep politics out of his sermons, so I don't even know why he would say such a thing. But this is most definitely a political situation, a political issue, this Israel v. Palestine thing. Certainly for Greg Locke it is, but really it is for everybody. Let me just put my position on the table so that you're all aware of how I feel. I don't believe that Israel deserves to be attacked. They don't. I also don't believe that Palestine deserves to be attacked horrifically. They don't either. Talked about this at length in one of my main channel's videos and a fireside video at even more length. The fireside video is like an hour and 16 minutes long or something originally. Main channel video is 20 minutes long, but let me just give you a quick idea of what we're dealing with here. Okay, this'll do. This should give you a rough idea of what we're looking at. So, Palestine kind of here, 1937 British proposal. This is how it was split up. If you're watching, it's the majority of the southern part of the area belonged to Palestine, and then 1947 UN proposal. This belonged to Palestine, and the green here. The Gaza Strip extended downward a little bit. Palestine extended up. So Gaza Strip is right by the ocean, and this section that, you know what, let me make my mouse really big so you guys can see. So right here where I'm circling with my mouse, this is the West Bank is what it's called. And this is part of Palestine. Down here is the Gaza Strip, and that is effectively an open-air prison now because the people in the Gaza Strip, there are 2 million people there. 2 million! That is so many people! By the way, this whole area, the entire thing, is about the size of New Jersey as a state. So the Gaza Strip is just this one little city, and it's got 2 million people in it, and it has no supplies. It has no way of getting any supplies. Israel controls its power and its water and its everything. They can't get out through the Egypt side because it's controlled by Coptic Christians, or there are a lot of Coptic Christians there anyways. And it can't get out through the Israel side because Israel won't let them in. So it's effectively a giant open-air prison now. The West Bank, this little white area in the middle of the West Bank that my mouse is pointing to, this is West Jerusalem. Jerusalem is split between Palestine and Israel. East is Palestine's, west is Israel's. and they fight over it like cats and dogs. It's bad. So this is a 1947 proposal by the United Nations when Israel originally got statehood. These were the borders. As time went on, armistice lines were drawn, territorial changes took place. These are the 1949 armistice lines, the middle one here. The 1967 territorial changes, as a result of the Six-Day War, are what everybody wants to go back to except for Israel right now. Golan Heights is this upper right portion here. This belongs to Syria, I believe, originally. This is the West Bank, and this is the Gaza Strip. Those belong to Palestine. So, anyways, everyone wants to go back to the 1967 borders, and countries in the area have even agreed to work with Israel and bring peace to the Middle East if they agreed to stay in the 1967 borders. But they won't. They refuse to. Well, now, 2005 to present, they keep building settlements and chipping away at the Palestinian life here, Palestinian borders. They can't maintain a full area because they're chipping away at it. And at this immediate moment in time, right now, like as of like yesterday or this morning, that's probably going to change over the next 2 weeks, month, 2 months, years. Right now, the Gaza Strip is under siege. They've cut the power, they've cut the water, and they've told everybody who is not a member of Hamas to get out. They being Israel, by the way. Unfortunately, they don't have a way out. The 2 million people that live there. They have no way to get out. They can't go through the Egyptian side. They can't go through the Israel side. Where are they supposed to go? So that's the situation at the immediate moment. Israel keeps chipping away at Palestine by building settlements, and terrorist cells have built up in the area, at least partially due to the unhappiness about what's happening. Not that it's excused for Hamas to go through and do some psychotic shit. They're like ISIS, Hamas is, and Hezbollah and these others. They're extreme nutcases. I mean, you know, cutting people's heads off and killing civilians and everything. The whole 9 yards. They're evil. But I'm not really happy with what Israel is doing right now, or what they've been doing for a while. But the problem is that it's also religious for Greg.
Okay, these ain't Republican Democrat statements. These are Genesis chapter 12. I will bless them that bless Israel, and I will curse them that curse Israel. That's what.
Okay, that's part of the Jewish Bible. Why are you quoting parts of the Jewish Bible to tell us what Jesus would want, your God Jesus? First of all, I mean, yeah, it's part of the Old Testament. The New Testament is what Jesus would want you to learn about or whatever. The Old Testament, arguably, the Old Testament is just for history. Like, it's for a background in Jewish history more than anything. Nothing in the Old Testament applies to modern-day Christians. They're not supposed to. It was supposed to be undone. Judaism and Christianity are different religions for a reason.
Say, oh, I thought he wasn't going to get political. This is not political statements that I'm about to make.
And what's interesting about this is that Greg Locke uses the Bible, quote unquote, or his interpretation of it, as a justification, as the basis for persecuting other people all the time. I'm not just talking about, like, persecuting Palestinians. I'm talking, like, he uses the book of Leviticus as the basis for persecuting gay people, like, all the time. Or whatever. He uses this stuff as the basis for persecuting people of other religions constantly.
Okay, these ain't Republican Democrat statements. These are Genesis chapter 12. I will bless them that bless Israel, and I will curse them that curse Israel.
I mean, he says the exact same line when he talks about gay people. So this is completely vapid and empty to me. I'm sorry.
That's what this is. Ain't nothing political about what I'm about to say, but it's going to seem a little bit political, and that's okay, because I'm going to say a couple of things that online is going to stir some people up, and in-house may weed out a few busybodies.
Again, like, he uses scripture as the basis for his political beliefs. So, like, literally everything that Greg Locke espouses is political to some degree. He just tries to back it up as not political because he can find verses to, like, justify it. You can find verses to justify anything in the Bible, anything. Because it's such a broad-ranging book, written by authors of different social classes and different varying amounts of wealth, and areas that they lived in were completely different. You can justify anything from the Bible. This is a cute little trick that Greg runs all the time. This isn't political, this is religious. And then he says something super political and bases it off of some ridiculous verse that he found to justify his political position.
Okay? You came to the wrong service today if you thought I was going to talk about these poor, beat down, oppressed Palestinians. That's a bunch of nonsense that's been pushed by the media.
Yeah, I didn't think you were going to talk about the oppressed Palestinians, so I'm not surprised by that. Look, you can be both pro-Israel and also see that the Palestinians are suffering terribly, right? You can accept both simultaneously, can't you? I'm blown away by the fact that he doesn't want to acknowledge or that he doesn't want to accept the fact that there are people suffering on both sides, all over the place right now. Although Israel has all of the guns, really, by and large. Not all of the guns, I suppose. There are terrorist groups like Hamas that are wreaking havoc on everything and everybody, unfortunately. Yeah, I didn't expect Greg to be in favor of Palestinians.
Okay? What we would call them, the Bible would call what you would consider Palestinians, which really is a made-up word. There's no such person.
Jesus was Palestinian. What are you talking about? Israel is a made-up word. Jew is a made-up word. They're all made-up words because we are the ones that make the words up. What?
All the land belongs to Israel, and the Bible declares that. Hand me that Bible right there for a minute.
Oh, my God, dude. Oh, my God, this is crazy. Okay, I got to write this down. I didn't realize there's stuff happening before. Damn, I wish I'd watch. Oh, no. Oh, no. I accidentally opened OBS. Oh, please don't wreak havoc on my system. Oh, close OBS. Okay.
Call what you would consider Palestinians, which really is a made-up word. There's no such person. All the land belongs to Israel, and the Bible declares that. Hand me that Bible right there for a minute.
Dude, what a bizarre thing to say.
Somebody says, well, what's the land deed to the nation of Israel? Right here's the deed to their land, right here.
The Bible. God, this is messed up.
Every centimeter that the sole of their feet walked on. This is the title deed to their land. It's the title deed to their land. As the rightful heirs to Abraham. God keeps his covenant with his people. Listen, if God doesn't keep his covenant with the nation of Israel, which he has for all these centuries, then what makes you think that he's going to keep his covenant with us? If he
Wait. Wow, that's fascinating. So, there's so much here. So Greg Locke believes that God is still in covenant with Israel? That kind of conflicts with the idea that Trump is the Messiah, because there's a group of people out there that believes that Trump is the Messiah. This is Shane Vaughn. He's a televangelist, and he's basically the leader of the Trump church, for lack of a better term. And he lays out why he believes that Donald Trump is the Messiah. It's kind of a complicated belief system, but I'll see if I can explain it as he goes. Just listen to this for a second, and you'll get an idea of why I'm surprised that Greg said that God shares a covenant with Israel still. To believe that Trump is the Messiah the way that Shane Vaughn does, and I thought Greg did, Israel cannot have that covenant anymore. By the way, this video of Shane Vaughn came out early November 2021.
And he wrote down, he wrote a course to New Israel.
Talking about the founding fathers.
New Israel, New Israel.
God, I can't stand how he pronounces it there.
And when they came off the ship, they didn't plant an American flag. They planted the Christian flag. On the soil, they dedicated. George Washington knelt and prayed, dedicated America where the Twin Towers stood. That's where America came into covenant with Yahweh, with God, was where the Twin Towers stand.
Wow.
I hear you asking, why does he believe this? Is there like a basis for any of this? What brought him to these conclusions? And the answer is Delusion. Delusion brought him, oh my God, I suck at this game, for real. Delusion brought him to these conclusions. There were 12 tribes of Israel, right? One of those tribes was the tribe of Judah. They were all based off of the children of Israel. Like, Israel was a real guy who was renamed. Jacob in the Bible was given the name Israel, right? And he had a bunch of children, like 12 kids. Levi, Reuben, Asher, Simeon, Judah, so on and so forth, like a bunch. Now, Israel was connected to Abraham. He's part of Abrahamic tradition or lineage. Trying to find where exactly the connection. Was he his grandson or was he his son? According to the biblical account, which is all we have for this information, like, that's all we've got for this narrative. We don't have any hard evidence of any of this stuff this far back, but according to the biblical stories, Jacob was the second born of Isaac's children. His older brother was his fraternal twin brother, Esau. As the older brother, Esau had birthright to some stuff, like to the kingdom or whatever, the goods owned by the family. And Jacob sought to steal that birthright from him, and he succeeded. Jacob had 12 sons through 4 women, his wives and cousins, Leah and Rachel, and his concubines, Bilhah and Zilpah, apparently. Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher, Issachar, Zebulun, Joseph, and Benjamin, all of whom became the heads of their own family groups, later known as the 12 tribes of Israel. I'll give you a little context for that. Now, I believe Jacob was the son of Isaac, and Isaac was the son of Abraham. So if you want to find out, like, if you were Jewish or not, back then, all you had to do is, like, find out who your father was or what tribe you were a part of, and you knew, like, whether or not you were Jewish. If you knew you were a part of the tribe of Levi, then you knew you were Jewish, and you could go all the way back to the line of Abraham. So anyways, that's kind of how, Jesus' lineage is established in the Bible. Jesus is necessarily Jewish. If he weren't, then he couldn't be the Messiah. The tribe of Judah split off from Israel. Jacob was Israel as a person. That was his name. And then his name became the country. He was renamed to Israel. Judah, the tribe of Judah, split off from Israel at some point in their history. And the tribe of Judah lived down there. There's a lot of, like, back and forth battling between the tribe of Judah and the other 11 tribes. They didn't like each other very much. Theologically, there's a lot of battling going on between them. Not like actual soldiers. Maybe at some point, but there was a lot of theological war because the North thought the South was not following the commandments of Moses, and the South thought the North wasn't, so on and so forth. At various times in history, Israel as a country was destroyed, but Judah still existed. And then the people from Judah were taken captive, and it was kind of destroyed. But Israel was okay, or the people in that area. So he's saying that the founding fathers, i.e., specifically George Washington, dedicated the U.S. to God, or not dedicated, but like came into covenant with God, and he sailed to New Israel.
Towers stand.
Wow. Ain't that something?
That is where George Washington prayed, right? There's a chapel right outside the Twin Towers where George Washington, that picture of him praying by the horse, that's where it happened.
No, that's a fake image. That didn't happen at all. There is an image of George Washington praying by his horse. It's fabricated. That never took place. That picture was painted in the 1970s, I think.
That's where he dedicated our nation in covenant to God. If you will make us a great nation, deliver us from tyranny, then we will serve you.
Okay, so the belief is that the founding fathers were Jewish, and this is New Israel, where we live right now. Now, the reason that's significant, he's about to explain how he got there. The reason it's significant that the founding fathers were Jewish is because the Old Testament says that the Messiah is going to come along, take political control over Israel, as like the king or whatever of Israel. That's why the Messiah is referred to as the king in some parts. So they're going to take over Israel, and then they're going to bring about the apocalypse. That's what the Son of Man, quote unquote, is going to do. Now, Jesus' followers believed him to be the Son of Man. the Messiah. The Son of Man is another name for the Messiah, effectively. Except Jesus died. And that threw a wrench into everything. Like, what? He's not supposed to die. He can't die until he takes political control of Israel. Right? So the belief is Donald Trump, this being New Israel, is the Son of Man. Jesus is the Son of God. Trump is the Son of Man, which is the Messiah. And now let him explain how he got to Israel. Trump is Jewish, even though there's no reason to believe that.
And he gave the nation to God at that point. Every signer of the Declaration of Independence were descendants of the tribes of Israel.
No.
We can trace it. We know it. I was a doctor of theology.
No.
I was the youngest ordained evangelist in America at 14.
No. At 14? No, that was Marjo Gortner at 4 years old. What the hell is this guy? Like, he's just brazenly making shit up, right?
Years old. Wow. I've lived for the Lord my whole life.
No, he was a life insurance salesman for a while that went to prison for 4 years for scamming old people out of their money. So that's not true at all. Like, literally nothing this guy is saying here is true.
And I was dumb as a box of rocks and didn't know it.
That I can believe.
At 40 years old, because I thought that a Jew meant Israel and an Israel meant Jew. Until I started studying my Bible.
And in Israel meant Jew, he says. I love it. And in Israel.
And I found out that the first mention of the word Jew in the Bible is them fighting against Israel.
That's because Judah, the tribe of Judah, existed. So Judah was fighting against Israel at various times, but they were all Israeli, or they were all Jewish.
And I found out that the first mention of the word Jew in the Bible is them fighting against Israel.
Wow.
And he's smiling like a dummy.
When you come to understand that Israel is not Jews and Jews is not Israel, when you get that, here's what happens.
Tell me, Shane, what happens?
All of a sudden, and I'll do it real fast, at one time, they were one nation. King Solomon died, King Jeroboam, King Rehoboam, there was a split.
Yeah, that's correct. Israel and Judah split in two. The people of the tribe of Judah went to the south. People of the rest of the tribes of Israel went to the north. They did not like each other. Theologically, they had a lot of problems with each other.
Yep.
The Jews, the tribe of Judah, stayed in Jerusalem. They kept the Sabbath. That's why.
Dude, did he just whistle through his teeth? Is that what I heard him do just now?
Judah stayed in Jerusalem.
He did. Fantastic. I love everything about it.
They kept the Sabbath. That's why they're still identifiable. They kept the Sabbath. That kept them identifiable for these thousands of years.
Okay, that's not true at all. Like, none of this is true, but okay.
However, there was 10 tribes that went to the north with King Rehoboam in rebellion. Those tribes crossed over the Caucasian mountains. They were captivated by the Germans. They crossed over the Caucasian... Oh, we're out of time. Oh, anyway. So they crossed over, I'll make it real quick, where they wound up at was the Great British Isles, because the prophecy was that they would go to the Isles of the Sea.
Completely made up. Like, literally every last bit of this is made up entirely. It's insane. Dude lives in a fantasy land. No joke. So he's saying that the Jews that live in Israel right now are legitimate Jews, but so are the Jews that live in America? I mean, okay.
And from there, we find those tribes making their way to the United States of America.
Completely made up, like literally all of it. It's fabricated nonsense. But that's the basis for the idea that Donald Trump is the Messiah. That must be true. If that stuff isn't true, if Donald Trump didn't descend from Jews, then he can't be the Messiah. So anyways, apparently, the point here is, apparently Greg Locke doesn't believe that Trump is the Messiah? I'm surprised. I thought for sure he'd believe that.
Breaks it with one, he'll break it with another. But I'm here to tell you, Titus 1:2 says God cannot lie.
Okay, let me step back.
God keeps his covenant with his people. Listen, if God doesn't keep his covenant with the nation of Israel, which he has for all these centuries, then what makes you think that he's going to keep his covenant with us? If he breaks it with one, he'll break it with another. But I'm going to tell you, Titus 1:2 says God cannot lie.
Wait, so Greg Locke does think that God has a covenant with the United States, apparently. Okay, interesting.
Any nation that turns against the Jewish people is in the sewer dump of history. Any individual that turns against the Israeli nation, any church, any community, any group, any sect, any denomination that has ever come out against the nation of Israel is in the sewer dump of the Encyclopedia Britannica. That's the facts. The reason God has blessed America so greatly is not because we're so wonderful and so righteous. Good grief, we're unrighteous right now. It's because we've been an ally and a friend to the nation of Israel. That is why God has blessed us.
Okay. Are you kidding me? Oh, okay. I thought there wasn't a wall there. That was going to be really frustrating.
So I don't care where you stand politically. This is a prophetic issue, not a political issue.
No, he's worked his politics into his belief system to the extent that he cannot separate them anymore. They're completely inseparable. Insane.
The moment this nation turns on that nation, we are sunk. We're done. No matter how prosperously blessed we have been, we're done. So I want to say a couple of things that are important. The news media would have you think that, you know,
it drives me nuts that he calls it the news media. That's very annoying, okay? I mean, what does that even mean? The news media?
Israel is so oppressive, and they're just a bunch of slave hoarders and drivers, and they're beating down these poor, oppressed Palestinian people who...
Well, I mean, like I've said, 1,000 times at this point, Israel is terribly mistreating Palestinians. And that's no justification for how Hamas acts. That's disgusting and evil and horrific. But, okay, Israel is acting bad, and so is Hamas. They can both be bad simultaneously. That's possible.
Again, by the way, the Bible would call them Philistines.
No, Palestinians and Philistines were different. He obviously has no idea what the history is. Philistines came from Cyprus. Let me just show a little map here so you guys have some context. I snapped this on Google Maps here. If you look here, this is Israel. Israel and Palestine and Lebanon and Syria and so on and so forth. If we just zoom in here, there's the Gaza Strip. This is where Palestine was originally, the Gaza Strip. I mean, like 800 BCE. But the Philistines were in this area too. The Philistines, I think Philistines means invaders or sea people? No, I think it means sea people. I don't remember what Philistines means exactly, but it's believed that the Philistines came from Cyprus, this island just north of all of that stuff. If you look at the whole map here, you can see Philistines were coming in from over here, and they built a civilization right there. That's where they think they came from originally. So Philistines and Palestinians were different from each other. And what's more, Jesus was Palestinian.
That, Israel is so oppressive, and they're just a bunch of slave hoarders and drivers, and they're beating down these poor, oppressed Palestinian people who, again, by the way, the Bible would call them Philistines.
He has no idea what he's talking about. None. He hasn't even looked at a map of the area or an older map of the area. Dude, are you kidding me? This sucks.
You understand that fact?
It's not a fact. You have no clue what you're talking about.
I'm not here to make friends with you today. I'm telling you, the Bible would call them Philistines. Uncircumcised Philistines is what the Bible would call them.
He's using the word Philistines as a slur. I mean, it's not a slur. It was just a group of people. But he's using it as a slur. Like if I'm talking about the boomer generation, that's not a slur. If I talk about boomers in a derogatory way, then it becomes a slur. I think I mean, with the exception of certain words, it entirely depends on how it's used. Some words have been used as slurs for so long, they will always be slurs. And they are in any context. That's just what it is. But Greg Locke is using Philistine, which is a fully legitimate group of people. He's referring to that, or he's referring to the Palestinians as Philistines in a slur type of way. This is crazy.
So listen, Israel right now.
By the way, just for the record, I mean, here's another example of this happening. Greg Locke uses the term Pharisees to attack people. He says, "Oh, you're a Pharisee. These damn Pharisees," stuff like that. Pharisees were actually just a group of religious believers back then. They are modern day Jews. Actually, the modern day Jewish movement derived from the Pharisee movement. Pharisees are basically just people who believed that when Moses came to deliver the commandments to the Jews, when he came off the mount, he didn't just come down with the 10 commandments. He came down with oral commandments also. And the Jews of the time kept those oral commandments not written down. They just kept it culturally, basically. So that was the Pharisaical movement, also known as Rabbinic Judaism. They believed that there were cultural values passed down from Moses, from God through Moses. That's what the Pharisees were. And the reason that they are spoken of so negatively in the in the New Testament is because the gospel writers believed that they could pose a challenge to Jesus' claim, because they were also the law interpreters, the holy law interpreters. The Pharisees were a group of people that knew how to read. They were literate, which was very rare in that time and place in history. About 90% illiteracy at the time and in the area. So the gospel writers believed the Pharisees would pose a challenge to Jesus. And another gospel writer, I forget, was it Matthew and Mark that had kind of competing views on this? I don't remember which gospels had competing views, but one gospel account believed Jesus' main adversary was the Pharisees. The other believed it was the scribes. So scribes and Pharisees are referred to derogatorily in the New Testament. But Greg Locke uses the word Pharisee as a slur, like he's using Philistine as a slur right now. It's crazy to me. He has no clue what he's talking about.
The Bible would call them Philistines. Uncircumcised Philistines is what the Bible would call them.
I think it would just call them Philistines. I don't why did he throw the word uncircumcised in there randomly?
So listen, Israel right now is in the midst of an absolute massacre.
No, they're not, actually. Israel is no longer being attacked by Hamas. They got control of the situation, closed down their borders, and attacked Gaza. So, yeah. Israel is on the offensive now. It's not Hamas attacking Israel anymore.
Video footage cannot do it justice.
Agreed. It's disgusting and evil what Hamas did to Israelis.
The media itself will not do it justice. If it wasn't for, no matter what you think about him politically, if it wasn't for Elon Musk allowing videos to actually surface on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, then most of the world would not know just how vicious and bloodthirsty it really is.
Okay, he lives in a fantasy land. Old Twitter allowed videos of horrific stuff also, first of all. And second, people can still get those videos from Reddit or, traditional media or any number of other places. Doesn't have to be Twitter. Jesus, dude. Elon Musk actually shouted out an anti-Semitic Twitter account when the war started in full. I found it interesting. I thought, well, Elon Musk's going to be on the side of Hamas, right? No. Interestingly enough, anti-Semites are on the side of Israel by and large. because they need Israel to exist for, Christianity to be true. But they don't like Jews. Oh, boy, do they not like Jews. Some of the shit that, like, the Twitter accounts that Elon Musk tweeted out, some of the shit that they said is just horrific, honestly horrific.
I mean, Benjamin Netanyahu, now look, I know in the past he's sold out on a few things. I get it.
Sold out on a few things. Okay.
But he has sworn that not only will Israel win, but they will decimate the enemy.
Dude, listen, they will decimate the enemy. Greg Locke actually cheering for genocide. He is actually cheering for genocide right now. Seriously. Does it get more horrific than this? This is nuts, dude.
Okay, look, this is war. This ain't Sunday school. You understand that?
Well, so it is political, then, is what he's saying, right? He said this is not Sunday school, this is war. So you are getting political, then.
So I'm just going to give you a couple of my observations.
Please.
And then we're going to have a real special time of prayer for the nation of Israel, okay? The Gaza Strip, which has now been cut off.
It has, yeah. 2 million people live in Gaza, okay? 2 million people. It's just completely 100% innocent people who didn't do shit to anybody being massacred. It's horrific. It's disgusting, man, honestly. You know what else is disgusting? What Hamas did to Israel. That's also disgusting. I'm not giving a pass to anybody on anything. They can both be disgusting. Anyways, the Gaza Strip, as I talked about earlier, the Gaza Strip is like in the map of Israel. It's this little section right here under my magnifying glass, separated from the rest of Palestine, and it's an open air prison because they can't get out. They can't go through Israel, and the other part of their border, they can't get through Egypt. So they're just like, they're waiting to die there. Israel said, if you're still in Gaza or in the Gaza Strip, when we come through, your life is forfeit. They can't leave.
By Israel, and rightly so. They should have cut.
All right, let's step back.
I'm just going to give you a couple of my observations, and then we're going to have a real special time of prayer for the nation of Israel, okay? The Gaza Strip, which has now been cut off by Israel, and rightly so. They
cut off their power and their water and their everything. Their food supply. I mean, everything has to come through Israel because they're isolated by Israel. There's no other choice. So Israel has the ability to kill every man, woman, and child in the Gaza Strip. And I don't know what's going to happen next, but it appears as though that's what they're going to do. I don't know. I guess we'll see.
The Gaza Strip, which has now been cut off by Israel, and rightly so. They should have cut them off a long time ago. I don't care how insensitive you think I am to that. There's 6 doors in this church. You can leave anytime you want to.
That's psychotic. He's calling for a genocide. He's saying, I want genocide. 2 million people live in the Gaza Strip. 2 million. Okay, most U.S. cities aren't over 1 million. 2 million people live in Gaza Strip, and they can't get out. And they just cut the power and the water supply to Gaza. And why is he in favor of genocide against Palestinians? Because the Bible told him to, he believes, incorrectly. That's psychotic, dude. People can honestly justify the most heinous shit in the name of religion. Like I said, I don't like what Hamas did. I think it's fucking disgusting. I also don't like what Israel is doing. I can not like either. It's insane to me what Greg Locke is saying and what is happening right now in Israel. It's just horrific stuff, man.
They've cut them off, electricity. They've cut off their water. They should have. Now, listen, I'm not for hurting anyone that's innocent.
Well, there are 2 million people that no longer have electricity or water and who Israel is basically about to kill.
But anybody that supports terrorism is not innocent. You understand that?
But if you live in Palestine, you by default support terrorism then. That's insane.
Israel should make the Gaza Strip a parking lot by this time next week.
2 million people! It's a city! What the hell are you saying right now? This is nuts!
Destroy the whole thing.
Holy shit, dude.
And anybody that's going to support this Hamas nonsense. Listen, Joe Biden ought to be tried for treason.
Wait, what does Joe Biden have to do with anything?
You understand that? Now, I get it. Obama's the real president behind him anyhow, and so he's the one that ought to be tried for treason.
Dude, I am so lost. How did you get there? What?
I almost said, everybody all right, but I'm not really worried about it. I know who will be all right, Israel, because God said, no weapon formed against you is going to prosper. No nation is going to be able to stop what God's doing in Israel. Not China, not North Korea, not Hamas, not Iran, not Iraq, none of them.
It's Iran, but that's neither here nor there.
Russia, not a one of them.
This is psychotic, dude. This is really, really psychotic.
Small potatoes in God's prophetic spectrum and timeline. So
again, I don't support what Hamas is doing. I also don't support what Israel's doing. This is insane to me, what he's saying right now. I can't even believe I'm hearing this. Well, I can, actually. I can believe I'm hearing this.
So I hope Netanyahu's a leader and he just mows the whole thing down by this time next week.
Greg is literally calling for a genocide right now. That's what he is doing. That is, I don't even have words for what that is. Holy Christ on a cracker, bro. Nobody has called for that so far. Although, in all fairness, I think Israel said that they were going to do that. I mean, I don't know. I guess we're just going to have to wait and see where this goes. By the time this releases, you may know. I mean, I don't know yet. Amen. Mow it down.
You said, well, you know, what are you going to do with all those people? You know what's interesting? Did you know that Egypt closed their borders to anybody coming out of Gaza?
Yeah, they did. You know why? Because it's largely a vassal state of Israel. Do you know who lives in and controls large swaths of Egypt? Christians. Coptic Christians. It's an old form of Christianity that's been around for like centuries or maybe millennia at this point. I'm not even sure. Coptics, a.k.a. the Copts. Coptics. They are Egypt's largest religious minority. The Coptic Christians are. And they're also the owners of the majority of the wealth in Egypt, I believe. I looked this up the other day. I don't remember what it was all about, but the point is they support Israel just like Greg Locke does right now. And Israel told them to keep the border closed, so you know what they do? They keep the border closed. The Gaza Strip, the people in it, can't escape. They can't. They have nowhere to go. What do you expect them to do? Israel and Egypt have the border closed.
They closed their borders a while back to the Palestinians. See, here's what CNN and people want you to believe. Oh, those poor, oppressed Palestinians. Egypt flooded their escape tunnels and barricaded their walls so that the Palestinians cannot even come into Egypt. You know why? Not even Egypt wants terrorists in their town.
Because everybody in Palestine is full of terrorists. That's it. Everybody in there is a terrorist because they are supporting terrorism. By definition, they're Palestinian. They support terrorism, period. And that means they are terrorists. That is the craziest form of guilt by association I've ever heard in my life.